Today, I want to tell you a story you think you know, a story about a people and a God and a promise that would not die. You've heard about the Exodus. You've heard about Moses, the baby in the basket, the fugitive shepherd, the man who stood before Pharaoh with nothing but a staff and the word of the Lord. You've heard about the plagues and Passover and a sea that stepped aside so a nation could walk through. Yes, that story you know. But today, I want to tell you the rest of this story. For 400 years, Israel lived in Egypt. 400 years of building someone else's empire, carrying someone else's burdens, crying out to a God they weren't even sure remembered them. They weren't soldiers. They weren't leaders. They weren't a nation. They were slaves. Their fathers died under the desert sun. Their mothers wept under Egyptian whips. And generation after generation asked the same question: where is God now? But while Egypt tightened its grip, God was preparing a deliverer. And he found him not in a palace, not in a temple, not in an army, but in a desert. A man who thought his best days were behind him. A man who believed he had failed too deeply to ever be used again. His name? Moses. But God said, I have seen their oppression, I have heard their cry, and I am sending you. And so the story began. You know about the plagues, blood, frogs, darkness, death. Pharaoh's heart hardened, then cracked, then hardened again. But the hand of God never wavered. And then freedom. The night of the Passover, the hurried packing, the sound of sandals pounding on dirt roads. A people who had never been free, stepping into a world they had only dreamed about. But the Exodus didn't end at the Red Sea. That was only the doorway. Freedom is not just the moment the chains fall off. Freedom is learning how to walk without them. And so God led his people into the wilderness, not to punish them, but to teach them. To teach them that food doesn't just come from the earth, it comes from heaven. That guidance isn't found in maps, but in a cloud by day and fire at night. That their value did not come from bricks or labor or Egyptian overseers, but from a covenant with the God who called them his own. In the wilderness, a nation was born. A people who had once only known slavery learned how to worship, how to trust, how to follow, how to hope. And when they finally stood on the edge of the promised land, with the Jordan River flowing at their feet, something remarkable had happened. Egypt was no longer their identity. It was their testimony. A reminder that the God who brought them out would surely bring them in. The Exodus isn't just ancient history. It's a picture of our own journey. We all have our Egypts, places of bondage, fear, or regret. We all walk through wilderness seasons, those times when the path is uncertain, the days feel long, and we wonder what God is doing. But just as he led Israel step by step, he leads us. He doesn't simply pull us out of the trouble. He shapes us into people who can walk in his promise. The wilderness is not the end. It is the place where God turns former slaves into sons and daughters, and wanderers into worshipers. So if you find yourself between the Red Sea behind you and the promised land ahead, remember this: God is not finished with your story. He is forming you, guiding you, loving you every step of the way. In Exodus chapter 14 and verse 14, the scripture tells us, the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And that is why we know and have full confidence that the same God who brought Israel through will bring you through as well. And now that you know the rest of this story, you have a story to tell.